Welcome everyone, Questini here with the discussion about Grand Cathay in patch 4.0 for Total War Shadows of Change, Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. Cathay is now really a menace on the campaign map in a way that they really weren't before. This is my campaign as the Changeling, it's turn 68, and the main challenge of this particular campaign, the biggest fights, the biggest armies that I've had to deal with in this entire campaign have come from Cathay. And while at this particular point in the campaign, you have Lokir occupying a lot of it, Snitch is dead in this particular campaign. He got killed by Miao Ying and Xiao Ming. The sole reason that Cathay is not in full control over this entire area of the campaign map is purely because I've been in this theater of operations annihilating their armies. In fact, I just finished defeating, or one turn ago, I just finished defeating Xiao Ming and Miao Yang, who threw 2 full stacks of endgame units at me at turn 68. I think Cathay has ultimately become far more ridiculous than it was before. Now, before on Legendary very hard difficulty, it used to be that Cathay would end up being fairly strong, but certainly not the biblical level of threat that it has become right now with this particular patch. And look at this situation. Keep in mind, I've been annihilating their armies. Like, I dealt with Miao Ying over here with an entire stack, then 2 full stacks of Xiao Ming, then 4 other stacks actually over here in this situation trying to save Snitch. I failed, by the way. And then I got chased down over here by 2 other full stacks of Cathay. And now look at these maniacs. They've already got 11 units in these 2 armies over here, and they've also got 9 units in this particular army. So it's like all the armies that I've defeated, they're just gonna get them back up, and it's gonna continue. Sure, I can defeat them. I am the Changeling. I am playing a really powerful Legendary Lord. But it ends up being pretty ridiculous. Suffice to say, if I had not gone in the Cathaian theater as the Changeling, they would have become unstoppable. Now, something that does happen in patch 4.0 that I've noticed is that Village and Zaytan, but especially Village, will breach the Great Bastion. Don't ask me how I vassalized the Imperial Wardens. Basically, they were about to be wiped out by Village, so I was like, okay, let's vassalize them. But even so, Cathay is a nuisance to deal with in any particular campaign at the moment. And one of the things people are going to have to be aware of if they're going to play a campaign where they eventually end up in Cathay is that they're going to be dealing with a significant threat. Now, if you're now, thankfully, the Legendary Lords that start in Cathay, be it Snitch, Lokir, Village, Zaytan, are all really powerful lords, and so is Gorst. Poor Greases, if he ends up fighting Cathay, he's screwed. I mean, he already had the insanity of Grimgor. But what exactly is going on that's pushing Cathay to become such a biblical threat? Is it the caravan situation? I don't think so. I really do not believe that that's the reason Cathay is becoming so extremely powerful in the campaigns. And this is in every campaign I've played as Cathay. Like, in some I've seen them lose or be pushed back. Especially Miao Yang does tend to lose, but then Xiao Ming just comes in and steamrolls everyone. But what is pushing? Well, I think it's actually the harmony change that Cathay got. So before, the AI was really bad at getting balanced harmony to begin with. And even if it did, it wasn't really utilizing those benefits. Besides, what are those benefits from a Cathayan perspective? Oh, an economic benefit, a construction cost benefit, construction cost benefit, growth benefit. The AI doesn't really care necessarily about those benefits. But again, the AI seem to have been pretty poor when it came to managing the harmony before, like in terms of heroes, in terms of lords, in terms of settlements. So the AI was not capable of getting balanced harmony. But now you have this harmony change where Cathay can get either a significant benefit to an extra benefit to their growth, construction cost, etc. if they're going with yin, but if they're going with yang, and this is where things get juicy, if they're going with yang, they instead get to recruit rank and recruitment slots. And also, Cathay now has the ability of getting extra recruitment slots in general in their campaign. So that is what's certainly pushing the situation in their favor. Like looking at this particular settlement over here, you can see that this particular province is a Yang province. Keep that particular aspect in mind. Another Yang province over here, if we look at that. Over here, if we're looking at it, Yang again. So we have another Yang province over here for Xiaoming. And Yang, Yin, Yang again. So we see Cathay going really on the Yang warpath. And Yang gives them recruit ranks. Keep that in mind. Gives them recruitment ranks, reduces recruitment cost, which I would argue is a significantly bigger benefit for the AI. Because the AI already has, like, the AI has a construction cost, but also has a recruit benefit, right? From my perspective, the construction cost benefit is useful, but being able to recruit armies cheaper at a higher rank and faster is a significantly higher benefit from an AI perspective. Another thing that's really pushing Cathay to become insane in the campaign when controlled by the AI also has to do with how their armies work. Like, Cathay has always had a good army, and their armies especially are good in auto-resolve. Remember that aspect. So, because even their tier 1 units, their Jade Warriors and Jade Warrior crossbowmen at tier 2, and then Jade Warriors with halberds and crossbowmen with shields at tier 3, and let alone the Celestial Dragon Guard, the artillery, etc. They're all units that do well in auto-resolve. And this is important when you're talking about AI versus AI, because if one particular AI faction ends up having those kind of benefits and another doesn't, one will end up being dominant. And there are certainly some factions that have good heavily armored units. Village is one, but Village does have limited armies. Lokir is another, but Lokir is just one faction that can steamroll. And Lokir has his own issues, including Nakai, to deal with in the campaign. Also, another factor that's likely helping Cathay end up steamrolling is the fact that they might end up being allied with Nakai, which is certainly something that has happened in this particular campaign. Remember that aspect. And then you consider Yanbo's situation. Like, Yanbo is even more ridiculous. Like, look at the situation over here, Lustria. So Yanbo defeated Rakarth. That is impressive on multiple levels. The reason it's so impressive is because of what Rakarth can do. So in many campaigns that I've played of Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, it's generally Rakarth of the evil factions, the disorder factions, that is the last man standing. In a lot of campaigns, I've actually seen the situation where the lizardmen of Lustria end up dominating here. Now, the Cult of Sotek seems to be collapsing quite a bit with this particular patch. I don't think it's not really because of nerf. It's just like there's been enough AI changes to kind of push the things over the edge where Skrulk ends up on top. And without the Cult of Sotek, what ends up happening is that Itza between the Awakened, between Luthor Harkon, between Luthor and Skrulk just ends up being killed. But doesn't matter, because then you have the Hunts Marshal and you have Yanbo just coming in here to ruin the day. And really the biggest loser is actually Mazdamundi over here. Now I'm playing with like things like Recruited Ledgering Lords mod and all that, but still, even without mods, you will end up having this situation. Like, people have done time lapses. The Great Book of Grudges in particular did that time lapse, and people assume, though, it's the caravan system. I don't think the AI is really taking advantage of the way the caravan system currently works. Sure, they might benefit from the sale value. They might benefit from the caravan master rank, assuming they do lose their caravans and they're recruiting new masters if they have the commandment on. But I really don't believe that it's that particular commandment that's pushing Cathay over the edge. I do think it's the change to Harmony and the AI specifically benefiting from the change to Yang. And let's look at Yanbo over here, by the way, if we're considering. So he's got one yin, one yang in his capital. He's got a yang in the floating pyramid, and then another yang. So he's just very slightly in yang territory over here, just extremely slightly. But even a slight benefit is significant for Cathay when it comes to that. But what happens if they were to push really hard in terms of yin and yang? If they went really hard on yang, if they could balance that, they could steamroll even further than they already are. And then there's a new unit. So while the Onyx Crowmen are not particularly great, nor is the Drum, but the Jade and Jet Lions absolutely are good units that, again, do well in Atrozelf. By the way, speaking about provinces, this particular province is very much a Yang province. And also, because the AI is more willing to build garrisons than it was even before this patch, it ends up in this situation where it's just like this steamroller effect that ends up benefiting Cathay quite a bit. Keep in mind, Cathay already had a lot of benefits that really pushed the AI factions to become quite strong, but now it's just absolutely ridiculous. That's all I had to say. Costini here, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.